Surprise, surprise!
Surprise, motherfucker.
Some multi-platform VR games are actually selling better on PSVR2 than on the Meta Quest store. Blasphemy! There is no way this is true. This is some made up bull. Well, except it ain't. And if you don't believe me, well, don't worry. Stick around, and by the end of this video, I promise you you're not gonna look at PSVR2 as pessimistically as you used to. But first of all, friendly reminder, if you love VR and if you want to see more VR content like this, then do me a favor and hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed, which there is a very high chance this is the case, since there is like only 8% of you guys who are actually subscribed, then do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And also share the video out, and that way we'll have a better chance of reaching this month's subscriber goal. The clock is ticking, we're still miles away from reaching our monthly goal, but I believe in you guys, we can do it, and of course, thank you so much for your support. Alright, so I'm gonna cut right to the chase here, and I'm not gonna waste your time. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while now, you would know that what I'm going to say in this video is really not shocking or surprising as some people might think. No, this is actually something that is becoming very normal these days, and I covered this in previous news videos. Yes, despite MetaQuest being the dominant and quote-unquote leading platform in the VR industry, despite those huge numbers like the last time I checked, I think they have like what, 20 plus million users or something? Yeah, despite those numbers, some multi-platform VR games are actually selling better on PSVR2, a PS5 accessory that has a much smaller player base. What are these games? Well, first it was Max Mustard. Do you guys remember Max Mustard? That epic VR platformer that launched last October on PSVR2? Yeah, Max Mustard sold better on PSVR2 during the first 2 weeks of launch than it did on the Meta Quest. Here is the full statement from Toast Interactive. Quote unquote, now we all know that the PSVR2 hasn't quite received the attention or hardware sales it truly deserves. With approximately 2 million units shipped, this was in October by the way, before the massive holiday sale, so there is definitely more players today. Quote unquote, despite being a fraction of the market, Max Mustard has sold better on PSVR2 during the first 2 weeks of launch than it did on MetaQuest. We thought this was an interesting statistic that breaks the norm of what the industry is seeing. But MBG, this is just one game. It doesn't mean anything. Well, you're right. But it's not just one game, isn't it? There's also Encircled, a small strategy tower defense game by Course Rand. I mean, of all VR games, you'd expect a game like this to sell better on Quest, right? Wrong. This was written by the developer of Encircled about 2 months ago. Quote unquote, while I enormously enjoyed porting it over to the PSVR2, Encircled is obviously a low-budget game for a very niche audience. Releasing it on a comparatively smaller platform seemed like it might not be the best use of time and effort, outside of my personal enjoyment learning the platform, which to be honest, would have been reward enough for me. Reality has turned out to be quite the opposite, and I thought I'd share that insight and thank all of you for the support. To be clear, the PSVR2 version has earned 90% of what the Quest version has earned total. It will very likely pass it over the next couple of weeks. And I would assume it now did, because how can it not when the PSVR2 version has earned 90% of what the Quest version has earned total in such a short time, right? And we're not even done yet. Just a couple of days ago, the developer of Swordsman VR has revealed on X that his game sold more copies on PSVR2 than on MetaQuest last month, meaning in December 2024. Quote unquote, this will shock the XR space. Swordsman sold more copies on PlayStation VR than on the MetaQuest store in December. And when someone told him that this is because there is Blade and Sorcery on Quest, and it's by far the most popular sword fighting game and is not available on PSVR2, he responded by saying that, quote unquote, correct, Blade and Sorcery isn't available on PSVR. There are different options for melee combat on the platform though. From the information I've come across, our results aren't far off from others. Interesting. So he's implying that there are even more games that we haven't heard of that are selling better on PSVR2. And honestly, this is not surprising to me at all. I mean, no wonder all of last year's big titles like Metro Awakening, Alien Rogue Incursion, Skydance's Behemoth, etc., all of them were marketed alongside the PSVR2. Vertigo Games, Skydance Interactive, Survios, you know, all these studios chose to partner with Sony for the marketing of their games. It's because they know. They know that if you're making a great VR game, chances are you're going to make more money on PSVR2, even if it's a fraction of the market. PSVR2 gamers are PS5 gamers, meaning they're hardcore gamers, adult gamers, and they can actually afford to buy video games. whereas the Quest player base is mainly formed by casual gamers, mostly children who are usually interested only in free-to-play games, like Gorilla Tag for example. So if you've been following the VR industry for a while now, news like these wouldn't shock you at all. And by the way, I mentioned earlier last year's major releases, Metro Awakening, Skydance's Behemoth, etc. Most of these games, if not all, have more user ratings on the PlayStation Store than on the Horizon Store. So like I said, this is not surprising at all. All of this makes total sense to me, and the reason why I made this video is to raise some awareness and let people know that hey, PSVR2 is fine. PSVR2 is more than fine, and it will continue to be until the end of its life cycle. But that's just me. I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what you make of all of this, and also let me know what is your main VR platform these days. I'm interested to know, so comment below. And that's gonna have to do it for this video guys. If you enjoyed it, if you found it informative, and for more PSVR2 news, reviews, and discussions, make sure you stick with MBG.